today was a good day, and to be honest, the last couple weeks have been fantastic. If you're a short-term trader, it's times like this to take full advantage. Whether the market goes up or down, when the volatility is increased, there's plenty of opportunities. It's about being patient, waiting for quality setups, taking full advantage, and then not over trading and giving money back. That's what I've been doing, and things have been going incredibly well. Hopefully they're going well for you too. So today we're going to be going over the trades that I took on Tesla. Trade recap. It's Monday, October 3rd. Took 2 trades, both to the downside, and made $5,539, which is a fantastic green day. Now let's go over SPY just to get an idea of what the market is doing. So it's been in a downtrend. On Friday, it had a push off the open and even kind of in the middle of the day, and then it got sold into. So sellers took control. It's been going sideways for a handful of days. It's below the 9 EMA on the daily. That's an indicator that I really like to use for short-term trend or a possible change in trend. So if it's below the 9 EMA, I'm still going to be bearish. It doesn't mean that we can't have up days, but just realizing that the overall market is very weak and there's a lot of fear. And now to go over the Qs, same situation. Now, when it comes to getting a gauge of the overall market, people like to look at the SPY and the Qs. To be honest, I really only need to look at SPY. I look at the Qs just because it's another popular thing to look at. And similar to SPY, it's been going sideways for a handful of days, still below the 9 EMA, and on Friday had a chance to rally and then it got sold into, so sellers are still in control. And getting an idea of what the overall market is doing is very important. I feel like a lot of people skip this step. They just go into the stock that's up, the one that's down, and they try to trade it. It's all about understanding the psychology of what other traders are doing in the overall market. And being that the market is weak, if there's an individual stock that's going to have bad news, I'm going to think that the path of least resistance is going to be lower just because sellers are in control, and then vice versa. In a strong market, in a bull market, if something gets good news or an individual company has good news and then it gaps up, the chances of maybe that going further can be higher. Now, nothing has to happen, but just getting a gauge of what could possibly happen allows you to take quality setups and then not fight the overall trend, which usually leads to being on the right side of more trades. Now that I have an idea of the overall market and it being weak, Tesla, my favorite stock to trade, it had negative news. And also, just looking at the last couple days, pretty nasty sell-off. And then on Friday, a weekday, and then it was kind of below this major area of support. It did not look good. It also had an open gap that I've talked about on some of my live videos before at 250.66. So just realizing that the path of least resistance right now is going to be lower. And there was the negative news of a deliveries miss. So I felt like it was leaning to the downside as far as just the sentiment and the path of least resistance. Now, nothing has to happen, so it's all about waiting for those technical patterns off the open. I ended up taking a 2-minute downside opening range break off the open, and then I did something slightly different. There was so much weakness off the open. Sellers clearly took control. Then on that first bounce, I actually shorted it and then took profits on the new low. And at the bottom of the screen, you'll see the entries and the exits. So the first trade, that 2-minute downside opening range break, took the 250 puts, 20 of them, got filled at $8.69. Very nice move in my favor. Sold the full position at 1060. And then that second trade, shorted the bounce below 250. Got 20 puts, the 245s, filled at $7.79, and then took profits on the new low, $8.65. Made $3,819 in the first trade and $1,720 on the second trade, which is awesome. Now let's look at what happened off the open. So the first 2-minute candle closed red. I would have preferred that to close green, but it was very weak, so I was just going with the flow of the price action. Had a push on that second candle below the 9 EMA and the VWAP, so I went for the 2-minute downside opening range break. Got a really nice move in my favor. Kind of held it right at that pre-market low, started to bounce a little bit, so I took profits. Realizing how weak this was, I just wanted to go with the trend, and I figured the first bounce was probably a shortable opportunity. It was also below 250, kind of a psychological whole number. What was old support becomes new resistance. Had the bounce up to it. Ended up taking a pretty aggressive entry. I got short and then eventually rolled over, and as it made that new low, I just took the profits. And yes, it ended up going lower. Had I held for just a couple more minutes, I would have been up a lot more on the day. But I was nicely green on the first trade. This is normally when I stop, but because the price action was so aggressive, I felt like it was worth taking one more trade on it. And then when I got that move lower, I just took the quick profits because I didn't want to give anything back after that. And then after those 2 trades, I called it a day. I feel like when it comes to Tesla now, post-split, majority of the opportunity on it kind of comes within the first 20 to 30 minutes. I've noticed that if I stick around a lot longer than that, I can get chopped up. So that's why I was done trading after those 2 trades. And when you're up $5,000 that quick, there's no reason to continue to trade and mess a good thing up. So that was a quick trade recap. I appreciate you watching the video. Feel free to like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. Thanks for sticking around to the end of the video. I just want to talk about a couple cool things that I have to offer. The first is going to be my newsletter watch list. This is exactly what I post on my private Twitter 30 minutes before market open every single day. I do a quick analysis of the overall market, the SPY and the Qs, if there's any major market news that day, and then all the stocks I'm interested in watching. It's usually 4 or 5, if there's any major news tied to them, and all the levels that I think are in play. To the left, this is exactly what I'm posting on my private Twitter. I make sure to add that newsletter. I take a screenshot of the charts, green line to the upside being long, red line to the downside being short, and I make sure to highlight those 2 levels above. This is everything that's going on in my mind and my game plan going into each market open. Also, I make sure to add a little mental note because every day is slightly different, and here's an example of that. And if you want something that's a little bit less of a commitment, I do offer a live one-on-one call for 1 hour. This is where you can ask me questions about my journey, go over setups specifically, everything that I've gone through as a trader. Whether you're beginner or advanced, this is a great way to connect with me. So if you're interested in my private Twitter or the one-on-one live call, feel free to go to callmattdiamond.com or check out the links in the description below.